My June wrap-up. I read 5 books in the month of June, which I think is a personal achievement because I've never read that many books in one month before. So without further ado, let's just get started. The first book I read this month was Written in the Stars by Aisha Saeed. This is a young adult contemporary novel that follows Naila, a 17-year-old Pakistani-American girl. She was born and raised in the United States, however, her parents are from Pakistan. Her parents are relatively conservative, so they tell her that she can basically study whatever she wants, become whatever she wants, and dress however she wants. However, there's one rule, and that is she cannot have a boyfriend. But you know how the teenage hormones work, and our little thirsty girl over here gets a boyfriend. So naturally her parents find out, and as kind of a reaction to this, they take her back to Pakistan because they are convinced that she has lost touch with her roots. So they tell her that they hope that this vacation in Pakistan kind of helps her to reconnect with where she's originally from, and also kind of like see the error in her ways. But when she reaches Pakistan and she spends about a month there, she realizes that her parents are up to something a little more sinister. We get to find out that they are actually planning an arranged marriage for her. That's not a spoiler, that's actually in the summary, so don't freak out. This book basically deals with the real issue of arranged marriages, and it was intense. We are looking at Naila's struggle in this marriage and trying to resist it, trying to escape, trying all kind of different things to resist this marriage and this arrangement that her parents is trying to force upon her. It gets very intense. It's very suspenseful. The suspense almost killed me. I spent 5 hours reading this book, and it tugged every single emotion that I had inside of me, and I couldn't put it down. It was enthralling. It was enthralling. I highly recommend it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I also have a full book review on it, so if you'd like to check that out, I will link it down below. The next book I read this month was also a very intense read that I read in like one day, and that is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. If you have been living under a rock, let me enlighten you as to what this book is. This is the first book in the Lunar Chronicles, a series about the future. Like, it is set thousands upon thousands of years into the distant future, and we are looking at a society that is very similar to the Jetsons. It's kind of semi-dystopian as well. You have humans living together with cyborgs and robots, and you also have the Lunar people, a biologically and psychologically advanced species of human that lives on the moon. The moon. Yeah, this book is kind of crazy. And the crazy does not even end there. These books are actually fairy tale retellings. So each book is based off of a classic fairy tale in which the fairy tale's storyline is used as a kind of a template to guide the plot of each book. So this first book, Cinder, is about Cinderella. Cinder, a shoe. Cinderella. And Cinder is actually a cyborg. Cyborgs, since they are half robots, half humans, they are kind of viewed upon as a second-class citizenry. It was an amazing introduction to the series, and I really can't wait to move on. The writing was intricate, the world building was done so well, and this was just the best introduction into a series ever. So I cannot wait to continue on with the second book, which is Scarlet, which is based off of Little Red Riding Hood. So, the next book that I read this month was Some Girls, Some Hats and Hitler by Trudy Cantor. This is a World War II memoir where we follow our author Trudy Cantor living during that time. She is from Austria and she's also a Jew, and she owns a successful hat-making business. Basically, this memoir is about her struggles during the time and trying to resist the harsh implications that were put on her as a Jew during this time, living in Austria. And it also kind of focuses on her relationship and the development of her relationship with her husband Walter. This was a really nice memoir, and it's a very quick read. The writing is done amazing, and it's a really good trip back to that time, and it's really interesting to get to see this event in the eyes of someone who actually experienced it. If you would like to know more of my thoughts, I also have a full book review of Some Girls, Some Hats and Hitler, which I will link down below. The next book I read this month is yet another book that is very popular in the young adult area, and that is 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. This is a young adult contemporary kind of suspense novel, and it follows Hannah Baker. Hannah commits suicide for 13 reasons. Each of these reasons is tied to a person in her life. So what she does is, before she commits suicide, she records the 13 reasons on tapes. She then sends the tapes to the first person in such a way where by the time they receive it, she has already, killed herself. Every time a person listens to the tape, they pass it on to the next person. So we follow Clay Jensen, our main narrator. Clay receives these tapes and he gets to find out that he is a reason why. So we're basically listening to the tapes with him, as well as listening to his reaction to the tapes. This was a very interesting novel. I actually really enjoyed it. I had a bit of a problem with the writing, because how it's done is that we're actually reading the first person narration of Clay and Hannah. So we're listening to the tapes along with Clay. So Hannah's voice is kind of slanted. The font that is Hannah's voice is slanted or italized or whatever you call it. And then the font that is Clay's voice is like normal. And I kind of had a problem with that. It was very hard to focus, and I kind of got confused as to who was who. And I also wasn't really feeling the emotion of this book. I wasn't connecting to the characters. This is a book that people usually read in one sitting, but it took me just a whole week to read only half of this book, and that kind of frustrated me. So what I did was I listened to the next half of the book with the audiobook and read along with the actual book. I felt more emotionally connected to the characters now that I was actually hearing them and how they were feeling, and I didn't get confused because a female reads Hannah's voice and a male reads Clay's voice, so you got to see the difference in their voices, and I wasn't confused as I was when I was just reading this book. Also, I would highly recommend listening to the audiobook, because since this book is about listening to tapes, it kind of fits into the theme, and you really engage with this book better when you listen to the audiobook. So if you're checking out this book, I definitely recommend that you check out the audiobook as well. So the last book that I read in the month of June was Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. I'm planning to have a review of this up very soon. I already did post a review, I think a week ago. However, I was a bit incoherent, so I removed that video. So I apologize for that. So basically, this is a childhood memoir of the author, and it was very amazing. I loved it so much. We follow Jacqueline from the day she's born in 1963 to sometime during the 1970s. We get a touch of the whole black civil rights movement and how it impacted her as a young African American girl growing up during this time. She grew up in 3 different states, and she got to experience different ways in which people treat people in each of these states, and you got to see that as well in this book. The main thing about this memoir is that there's something different about Jacqueline. There's something inside of her that wants to be released, So Jacqueline realizes that she wants to be a writer. She loves to make up stories, she loves to hear stories, and she just wants to learn how to write so that she could produce her stories in a way where other people can enjoy them. This book was so touching and so gripping, and what I love most about it was the writing style. This book is actually written in free verse, or rather in a series of poems. So that was a really different reading experience for me. I never read anything in free verse, so this was a first, and it was definitely a good introduction. I absolutely enjoyed this book. Each poem was so beautiful and it had a deeper meaning that you just had to kind of figure out for yourself, which makes the reading experience unique for everyone, which is what I absolutely love about this book. And yeah, I love this book. I just love it. So this is my wrap up for June. As I said, I feel very accomplished for reading 5 books in the month of June, even though most people read a lot more within a month. I'm very content with this number. If you're wondering, I gave Written in the Stars 5 out of 5 stars. I gave Cinder 5 out of 5 stars. I gave Some Girls, Some Hats and Hitler 4 out of 5 stars. I gave 13 Reasons Why 4.5 out of 5 stars. And I gave Brown Girl Dreaming 5 out of 5 stars. So thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. Definitely let me know down in the commenting section if you've read any of these books, and I hope to see you again soon.